This is Rogers TV.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
This is Rogers TV. Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Welcome to Out of the Fog, from home, Zoom edition. I'm here today with Paul Preston, the CEO of Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Technology and Innovation, and Craig Rowe, who's the founder of Clear Risk and also the chair of the association. And finally, we're joined by Mimi Sharif, who is the CSR, the Corporate Social Responsibility Lead at Blue Drop here in St. John's. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm so excited to speak with the three of you about the technology industry in this province and the role it's playing right now and in the future throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. But first I want to start with a really interesting initiative that the three of you and your organizations have been instrumental in, and that is Closed Door Open Hearts. So Paul, I understand this is kind of a creation of NATI, so could you give us a little background on this initiative and how it came to start?
Yeah, happy to. It started with NATI recognizing that the pandemic situation we're in is going to require a lot of leadership from our technology sector leaders. We established a task force, and some of the things we talked about doing were, how do we give back to the community? How can we help peer organizations? And how can we help the community at large? And one of the founders at Blue Drop actually had recognized that because of no travel, it meant they may have some initial savings in travel costs, in entertainment, and things like that. So could they take some of those savings and earmark it for community development organizations to help those really that are at risk in our communities? So it literally started as a conversation between a number of us tech CEOs that wanted to give back and see how we could help the sector.
And Mimi, coming from Blue Drop, but also the other industries you've heard from throughout this initiative, it's a bit of a paradox. Most people, most organizations are hurting right now, in different manners, to different degrees, and we'll get to how the tech industry is affected too. But I think people would be kind of surprised to hear, oh, some people are actually saving money right now. So could you expand a little bit on, I guess, where these savings could be coming from?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And so when we initially had, thought about what are the different ways that we as an organization could support, we typically have a budget that we use for, helping our community. And so initially we thought, we could use that budget. And then we sat down and thought about it, and Paul mentioned that, we thought there's money that we use every month. And I'm one of those people who, we have our travel budget and we have entertainment. And so we thought, what, this is a crisis bigger than we've, experienced, at least in my lifetime. And maybe there's something that we can do. We can dig a little deeper. And so that took in our CEO kind of doing the math along with us and saying, could we give more? And I think one of the really important realizations while we were doing that is we said, yes, right now we're not spending that money. Does that mean that we don't need that money down the road? And that definitely was something we knew that we're not immune. And so when we say we're saving today, that doesn't mean that we can't use it in a couple of months' time or right now. But I think it was a really active decision to say, we're not spending it right now. We don't know what the future is going to hold, but we want to support our community the best way that we can right now, knowing that there is a need.
And Craig, I understand Clear Risk is involved as well. And so how did you, I guess, come to the decision to join this, and what to do with the money that you're, putting into this initiative?
Yeah, Melissa, so like Paul said, we struck a task force at NATI and we got together some CEOs immediately after this started and started talking about, okay, what can NATI do to support the sector? And there was lots of things. So advocacy, we needed to talk to government about what sorts of things the tech sector needed. And we also, of course, then there's what can the tech sector do to help the tech sector and other companies out there, because a lot of our members were getting calls from traditional companies, can you help us to work remotely? But then there was other companies in the tech sector that were saying, well, you know what, we're a startup, we got some technical people, and we're afraid that we're going to have to let them go. Is there somebody else who could hire them? And we can get them back in 4 or 6 months when we're able to. And then there was talk of, IMAD, Riscala, Blue Drop, how can we give back to the community? Because all of us were thinking that, right? And Imad and his team had come up with this excellent idea of closed doors, open hearts. So NATI, we took it and ran with it. And so it was logical. And just like Mimi just said, it's not like we've got barrels of new money, and it's not like we don't have a lot of risk. A lot of us are really wondering how we're going to keep our people and grow over the next few months. But relatively speaking, we're probably in a better position than most. But again, that depends on how long this goes on. Like right now, today, clear risk is fine. We completely lost all of our new sales, but we haven't lost any customers because no one's buying right now. Sure. Everyone's kind of battening down the hatches. But at the same time, so, we probably are. Every day I feel lucky. We're probably way better off than a lot of companies. So, all of us, almost a lot of the tech sector don't actually, Newfoundland and Labrador is not our market. We sell around the world. We choose to run our businesses from here. So we care about our community. We care about this ecosystem. Right after this call, I'm going on the Noya town hall. I don't do anything in oil and gas. We don't, but that's really, really important to our ecosystem. I just wanted to get that in there for Noya, our sister organization. But so our community and the ecosystem, the economy in this place that we live is so important that we just owe it to while we can, give what we can.
So Paul, what organizations out there, that I guess charities or community organizations, stand to benefit from this campaign? Who have you been hearing, NATI members are contributing to?
Yeah, certainly Stella Circle is one local organization we know we supported. The Salvation Army and the work they do, the gathering place has been referenced. And there's some sort of the virtuous cycle there, supporting an organization like Stella Circle and the Holy Heart Cafe, and then allowing them to hire companies to deliver, for example, then you end up helping those local taxi industry. So there's a bit of a virtuous cycle here that we're seeing kick off.
Mimi, I understand that there's another aspect to this campaign as well, and there was some door decorating happening. So can you guys tell us a little bit about, what the idea behind that is?
Definitely. And so the idea was, when you close your door, I think during this pandemic, it means different things to different people. And so for some, it means that you stay at home and you continue to work. For some, it means you might be laid off. For some, it means you can't get your bare necessities. And so when we're closing our doors to protect each other, so everybody's behind them. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you are, oblivious to what's happening outside, or that we want to open our doors together. And so we wanted to have a kind of a physical manifestation of that. And so we asked employees to decorate their doors with the message "closed door, open heart," so that everybody, whether you're walking past and you're not alone. Like, I think we're still people with wanting human connection. There's one way to do that. So it started off with asking employees of, businesses who've joined the pledge, but we're asking individuals as well, decorate your door if you have a closed door, but you have an open heart, and we all want to open the doors together. I think that's the idea behind decorating the door.
That's really beautiful. And now, so have you seen, creative or interesting or beautiful doors through this?
Definitely. Yeah. I think people are a lot more creative than I am. That's for sure.
So it's not just the baking people are learning, they're also being a bit more creative.
They are, and getting to help.
I delegated mine to my 13-year-old daughter. She did a great job.
Oh, good. I don't have many craft supplies around here, so I'm not good with the crafting or the baking. Actually, I'm not good at any of these new skills. But I like the door idea. And so, if there's organizations out there who, aren't yet a part of closed door open hearts, Paul, is there a way that they can join the effort?
Absolutely. So we look for a couple of things. Number one, we have a website established called closedooropenheart.com. or through social media, through our NATI Twitter feed, LinkedIn pages, Facebook, even on our nati.net website, you can find details. As long as the organization commits to either corporately or their employee base, if they're going to commit funds or some regular contribution to community organizations, they can take the pledge. They can take the pledge with us and decorate the door, or if there's significant in-kind contributions. And that's something we've seen the tech sector step up in a big way to support. You have organizations locally like Polyunity, which are working to develop PPE for frontline staff, Collab Software, allowing their software, which allows for rapid iteration and design, remotely, collaborative efforts to design new PPE. We see organizations like that stepping up in a big way with in-kind, so they've pivoted and they're spending a lot of staff resources and time to help the response effort. So organizations like that can take the pledge with us as well. So as long as
So sorry, so it's not just money, it's actually anything that the organization or the company is able to contribute, including their own products and services.
Absolutely, and that's something we wanted to be clear on, is as long as there's significant support for the community. Yeah.
And I guess, do the contributors to this campaign have, I guess they have then the say to be able to, I guess, direct where their funds or their efforts go, wherever it makes sense or wherever it's needed?
Absolutely, yeah. So if there's an organization that one of our tech companies likes to contribute to, they can choose that organization. But I would say that we are seeing organizations outside the tech sector, the pure tech sector, get involved. Calagro is one example, and we're seeing some others now that are interested in getting involved in the campaign. They might not be quote unquote tech, but every organization today is tech.
Exactly. And that's a great segue, actually, because we're going to take a little break right now, and then we'll come back and talk more about how every company is now a tech company, and how your industry is going to, I guess, lead us all going forward. So we'll be right back after this message.
All right, girls.
Mom, you said it's played again.
Workplace injuries hurt the most at home.
I took this picture of my wife when she was near death, waiting for a liver transplant. And this is her now.
Hello, I'm Lise Breckenridge. A liver transplant saved my life.
What can I say? You be the judge.
Your donation will help Canadians understand the importance of pledging to be an organ donor.
And it will help save the lives of so many more.
As it has for us.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Welcome back to Out of the Fog. I'm here with Mimi Sharif, Paul Preston, and Craig Rowe, talking about the technology industry and technology and innovation industries in Newfoundland and Labrador. So, Paul, I'll start with you. I mean, we just talked about the Closed Door Open Hearts campaign and how perhaps paradoxically, some companies are actually saving money right now. But as Craig indicated, that's not to suggest that technology and innovation companies are immune to what's going on in the world right now. So what are some of the challenges that your members have communicated that they're facing right now?
Yes, nail on the head. No organization is immune. And I think what we're seeing our companies do is step up to help, even with an uncertain future. They're stepping up to help in the ways they can. So the key things we're hearing, much like a lot of small, medium-sized businesses, it's support for liquidity in the short term. So cash to pay the bills, to pay rent, to pay for people. It's the biggest challenge we're seeing. And in tech, I mean, our companies are born global. So you start a company in Newfoundland, your market really is not going to be Newfoundland, it's going to be the world. So in recognizing that, the sales for our companies, I mean, the sales pipelines have drastically reduced. No decisions are being made to buy software or other solutions at this point. So we know that the future prospect sales pipeline has dried up a lot. So we're going to need support for our companies when we're through this to maintain the staff they have, to maintain their operation, quite frankly. The wage subsidy is the thing that we really point to as great potential. it's important that we get it right. The criteria used for companies to access the wage subsidy has been an issue. So criteria being the revenue drop that companies had to demonstrate of 30%. In the tech sector, high growth companies, they can't access the wage subsidy because of that. Software as a service companies, because of their business model, they won't be able to access the wage subsidy. Early stage startup companies won't be able to access it. So the big challenge we're seeing is ensuring we get it right. And so far, the government has been listening, and we are advocating very hard for changes in those criteria.
So I guess in short, some tech companies, haven't lost the requisite amount of money because they weren't making the, I guess enough money in the qualification period.
Yeah. So for early,
okay.
Yeah, they don't have that revenue runway to be able to compare. If you're, for example, a high growth company, a year ago, you've ramped up your staff because you know your growth potential. The challenge is looking at revenues, even recent revenues compared to last year. You're growing so quickly, you ramp up in advance of that you can't meet that criteria. And software as a service companies, you're billing monthly invoices and you ramp up for future growth, but they can't demonstrate either the decline yet.
Right. And Craig, speaking, I guess, as the founder of your own company, but also as chair of NATI, I guess, what are the concerns like moving forward after this is over, and what the industry and the members of it are going to face, when life comes back to normal?
Whatever that looks like, right?
Right.
So I think that the federal government has been doing a great job. It's triage, right? So they're trying to save the companies that are immediately affected. But like Paul said, many of us, tech companies are very different than most other companies. We're built, like Paul said, we start off as global companies. We're built for rapid scale, right? We're not lifestyle companies. We want to grow 50% this year. We want to double next year. So our team is put together for growth. We got a big team that are out developing new business. We got a big team that are in place to install new customers. There's no new customers coming in. So our challenges are very, very different. And as Paul said, the federal government and the provincial government have been very good at listening. They've been very responsive. We're seeing some excellent things come out of it. I think what the challenge is going to be in the long term is not to lose all the momentum that we've got built up in the tech sector in Canada and in our case, Newfoundland and Labrador. The tech sector in Newfoundland and Labrador punches way above its weight in Atlantic Canada and in Canada. For a relatively small industry, we've got a very high success rate here. So our companies get funded, our companies have exits, our companies are growing rapidly. It's really a big success story. So we've invested and spent a lot of time and money and gotten support of all the government and government agencies, and private investments been really booming here. So if we now, it's not, we're not restaurants, we're in our stores aren't empty right now. Our challenge is next year and the year after, so that we don't lose all that momentum and all that investment and all that time isn't wasted. Because what we're going to see the impact a year or 2 years from now, after these sales cycle drying up filters into our business. So government is listening, and they understand that so they're already thinking about, so they were in rescue mode. Now it's, what does future look like? How do we invest so that we can actually maximize the opportunity coming out of this, so that we can come out of this stronger?
Right. And, you mentioned the rescue. It seems like the tech and innovation industries can actually be the lifeboat, because when you look at, what's happening in the oil industry right now, when you look at the impacts that the tourism industry in this province is obviously going to face this summer, especially, it seems like tech could actually be even more of a bright spot than it has been in the past, in terms of leading our economy forward in Newfoundland and Labrador. So I guess, Paul, just could you give us some background on, already where Newfoundland and Labrador is in terms of the importance of the tech sector and where you see that going after this? Yeah,
so as a sector of the economy, it's 1.6 billion. So wow. Bigger than forestry, bigger than farming, bigger than traditional fishery. You might not expect that. It employs, the most recent data out of the province shows about 6,500 people employed in the sector. But just as important as the sector is in and of itself, and huge potential for that to grow and to double in the coming years, Innovation and technology really they're also the competitive driver for every other sector of our economy. So our primary sectors, our natural resource sectors are critical: oil and gas, fishing, up and coming aquaculture, mining. They're all critical sectors for our economy, and we can make them more globally competitive through helping them to become digital, through applying technology and innovation to those sectors. So tech is a bright spot, absolutely, but I think that there's really going to be a lot of interesting things that happen if we can get it right in how we apply the expertise we have to other sectors of the economy, like oil and gas.
Right. So technology can actually help, and the companies, in your organization can actually help other industries adapt to what Craig, you've said is whatever our new normal is going to be.
Absolutely. And we see that. I mean, the oil and gas sector, they're a highly technical sector in and of itself. So they've done amazing things in the technology they have. And the situational awareness they're able to create with a resource they want to develop is fantastic. There's a lot of opportunity, especially around data and sensing and ocean characterization and things like that.
Right. And on that note, in some ways, I guess, speaking as someone who kind of works outside of the tech industry, as you know, my day job, I practice law in a private practice. It's, we're kind of envious of tech companies who are already set up and we're kind of, had a leg up in terms of enabling people to work from home and work digitally. So what, Craig, in your experience running your company, I guess primarily from home in this environment, do you see that? Do you think that there's certain ways that technology companies actually were well placed to take on these challenges?
Tech companies were, yeah. We were one of the first companies to say we were going to work from home. We were home a week or so before everybody else was. Most of us work from home occasionally anyway, so it was real easy. Everybody had his laptop. So yeah, we had this baked into the cake. But I think that what's happened though, that very, very quickly, traditional industries that weren't set up for this overnight, all of a sudden are. Paul mentioned Calagro, who's a NATI member and a member of the Closed Doors Open Hearts. They're a traditional insurance brokerage. I mean, insurance has been around for 500 years. And within a week, they had everybody working from home and things like that. So there's lots of those traditional businesses that this has made them better. This makes for a much more resilient company. And one of the issues that we've had at NATI now for a while is, of course, it was always black and white, who was a tech company and who wasn't. But now it's all gray. Like everybody's highly tech enabled or tech leveraged, right? And I contend that this pandemic has sped everybody up 10 years. All the holdouts that were holding back on the investment or thought that they couldn't implement tech into their processes and their solutions, they did it out of necessity. So I think this is going to be good in a lot of ways for many companies.
That's right. People didn't realize you could be a professional in pajamas.
Yeah. On the bottom.
I won't ask you what everyone's wearing on the bottom. Don't worry. And maybe to bring you in here, in your role as corporate social responsibility lead, and other responsibilities at Blue Drop, I assume you've been working from home for the past little while. What's it been like for your organization and for you, not being around the office and working from home?
Yeah. And so I think, Craig did allude to the fact that I think a lot of us do work from home occasionally. And I think that's one of the great things about the tech sector is the flexibility that it allows you. So as long as you have your laptop, your phone, and a connection, a lot of us do work from home pretty often. And we find that most times to be the most productive time because it's quiet and so it's something that everybody was used to doing. I think what it's going to allow for now is a bigger discussion around whether or not there's always been a debate about whether working from home is really, how productive is everybody when you work from home, and can you really have a remote workforce? And I think this has truly forced everybody to check their biases and see whether they think it actually could work or isn't, and see how productive or unproductive everybody's able to be, knowing very well that we are working through a pandemic, so these aren't normal times that everybody's working through. And I think as a company specifically, we do miss each other's faces though. So I don't think we realize that. And so a lot of us who probably didn't put on video before on calls all put our videos on and probably linger a lot longer than we typically do on the calls. But it is as normal as business as normal can be. We are able to continue our operations and help our clients who both Craig and Paul have mentioned, a lot of them aren't in Newfoundland at all. So it's getting them used to also working with technology and riding out the storm with them as well.
And coming back to the corporate social responsibility piece, Mimi, I know you have expertise in this field, so I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on how that could possibly change, you know, in our new normal of having to interact more online. Do you see any kind of changes in how we can best help community organizations or volunteer efforts, you know, maybe with a bit more physical distancing?
I think so. I think, you know, I think every situation presents an opportunity for different ways to be creative in ways that you've never thought that you could before. And I mean, even during this pandemic in and of itself, CSR is typically seen as, you know, only giving financially, and it's so much more than that. So, you know, it really is about, could I tutor, you know, somebody online? Could I, like, what is it that the community organization needs? And I think that this will allow companies different ways that they can partner with community organizations that resonate with their companies to figure out the best ways that they need help.
Absolutely. And that's a lovely note to end on. Of course, there's no surprise that the technology and innovation industries are kind of leading us through and bringing everyone together and trying to find new ways to deal with the situation as it presents itself. So thanks so much for taking time, all three of you, for chatting with us on Out of the Fog today. And stay well, and hope your families and your employees and your colleagues and everybody stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for watching Out of the Fog. Thanks to Paul, Preston, Craig Rowe, and Mimi Sharif for joining us to talk about closed doors, open hearts, and the technology and innovation industries in this province. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
We're the generation that had it all. We're the generation that had the music and the moves. We're the generation that had a dream. We came together to feed the world's children. We came together to protect them. And in this dangerous world, we have to keep on saving them and protecting them, even when we're gone. If we remember UNICEF in our will, we'll be the generation who left a better world for children. Please visit uniceflegacy.ca.
The School Lunch Association is a registered charity that provides a hot, nutritious lunch for school children in over 36 schools, regardless of a family's financial situation. We believe that every child should have a hot, nutritious meal because good nutrition promotes better learning.
COVID-19 has affected us all, including one of the most needed resources for our children,